Hello everybody! So today I am making a video about something I was thinking about as I was driving around. I was thinking about the philosophical underpinnings of science and really just contemplating the fact that it actually does begin not really from a place of observation but from a place of philosophy. One of the biggest philosophical, starting points of all science is the idea that the universe itself is something that we are actually able to understand. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can come to that, get to that conclusion as your starting point, I guess. From a materialistic standpoint, somebody could just basically say, if we don't assume that we can actually find correct answers, then there's no point in actually doing anything, so we sort of have to assume that. From a theological standpoint, we could look at it and say, because God is an intelligent, designing being, he created the universe in such a way that we, his creation, would be able to understand it and to search out the truths about it. But the simple fact of the matter is, what has to be taken as a self-evident truth is the fact that the universe can actually be understood to a certain degree. Now, we differ somewhat on what things about the universe we think can be understood, and there are other philosophical, building blocks of science. This is really the big one. And what kind of strikes me is that now, depending on how you really want to start searching, you're going to narrow your field, I guess I should say, based on a philosophical point rather than an observational point. For example, I've talked about this before. If you're studying the natural world, most people in the physical sciences will tell you that you have to start from the point where you assume that every effect has a material cause. If you see something that occurs, there is a material cause that underlies that. Now, part of the reason why I think that this breaks down is if you were to take, for example, the equations that they use with regards to the Big Bang and the expansion of the universe, they do seem to do a fair job of describing what we can actually see. But if you carry them back to time zero, the beginning of the universe, you are essentially dividing by zero at that point, and the equations break down. Now, I think that this is a very strong indicator that these equations are not actually accurate, because the moment you're allowed to divide by zero, you can prove absolutely anything that you want. And so, that obviously things are incomplete, and we have to sort of change the way that we're thinking about it. Or we have to accept that dividing by zero is possible, and then we have to accept that everything is possible, and then we might as well just completely give up any study of science because we can prove that 2 is equal to 6. So, it's kind of a weird thing. But I guess the point that I'm getting at is that we tend to think of science as something that is entirely based on observation and deduction. But ultimately, science is built foundationally on a philosophical set of assumptions. And if it's built on a philosophy, if the philosophy is wrong, everything that is logically following from it can be correct. I've gone over this point before, and I don't really want to rehash it again. But I really just want to encourage anyone who watches this video to sort of rethink the way that you think about the scientific method, what science is, and the conclusions that we come to using the scientific method. And acknowledge that these conclusions are only going to be as strong as the philosophical foundations on which they are built. And I would encourage you, because it's unlikely that I'll just convince somebody through this video, but I would encourage anyone watching to look into what the actual assumptions are that we build the scientific method on, and consider for yourself whether these seem to be axiomatic or self-evidently true. And not just, in general, but whether, you look at the assumption, is every single part of it self-evidently true? And is it possibly leaving certain things out? That's sort of the thing that I'm getting at. And I believe that if you look at these things without the prejudice that it's already been figured out, that I believe that God will work with you on that and he can lead you into what you need to know. And I thank you guys for watching my videos. I realize I have kind of low quality and I tend to, talk fairly quietly. So I appreciate you sticking with me, and I would like to say God bless you and have a wonderful night. Thank you so much.